Hi everybody, it's Annette from the Art of Intuition, and today we are going to talk about relating to people and how that starts to shift when you get into relating to them from your purest aspects and not your human aspects. And a lot of people feel like they feel disconnected and they can't connect with people for a while, so I want to talk about that too. There are lots of different parts to the process of embodying in your higher aspects, right? And you'll get to a point where you feel like you don't really connect with anybody anymore because you can only connect with someone else as deep as you're connected within yourself and as deep as they are connected, in a sense. So if you're talking about a relationship, if you've connected really deep within yourself, but the other person has not, you're going to feel like kind of a disconnection in a sense. You're not going to feel I don't know how I want to word this. You're not going to feel I don't really want to use the word connection again, but that's really the only one I can see right now. You're not going to feel that it's aligned. Let's say it like that. The relationship's not going to feel aligned for long term. You know, you might be able to survive a couple hours, maybe a couple months, but eventually you can feel that it's disjointed. You know, it doesn't kind of fit. It doesn't make sense. Why sometimes, you know, because a lot of times humans used to call it chemistry. You know, when you're in your human consciousness, we call it chemistry. The chemistry isn't there, or you don't feel that thing, you know, whatever that thing is. Now you get into this energy, sometimes when you get into twin flame energy, you'll get that chemistry feeling, or that it's just an energy signature. You know, you have similar signatures, so they kind of draw you to each other in a sense. That you kind of, and you have many twin flames, you don't just have one. Technically everyone you meet's a twin, but we always kind of romanticize it and make them the romantic ones. But you do have some they're going to play a bigger part in your life than other people will, than other ones will, but kind of the same type of thing. So when you're talking about connecting, and when you feel it and when you don't, you're only going to be able to connect with someone else as deep as you connect inside. We talked about that. And if they haven't done the inner work and don't have that connection inside, the relationship is going to be very distorted in a sense. And it's not going to feel balanced. Because when we're relating to someone from our highest aspects, we are coming with them with complete love, but not human love. Human love has a lot of cords and attachment and judgment and demands and manipulation attached to it. You're coming with pure love, which is a feeling you kind of have to feel it, right? A lot of times you can feel it when you're around children, in a sense, because they're very pure relationships. Animals, children, you know, because they don't have the human ego going yet. Even when some of the kids do get the human ego going, there are different parts of those relationships with children where they're very just pure relationships, and that's where we want to be able to come from. And it sounds easy, right? Oh, I can come from complete love and compassion all the time, no matter what but we have to caveat that with no matter what's happening with the other person or what they're doing in response to that, right? Are they being respectful or are they being nice? It doesn't matter. You still have to hold that space. And it doesn't mean you have to put up with complete disrespect all the time. But a lot of times you're going to find you're going to put up with quite a bit for a while, because that's what higher aspects do. That's what, not so much putting up with the disrespect, but giving chance after chance for them to come from a different place. Let's put it like that. When you think about back in our human days, if you were religious and you were praying to something outside of you, right? Or whatever it was for you, you'd always think about that part of you, which really it is just a part of you, but if you still saw it from outside of you, which a lot of religions will still kind of try to put it outside of people, because people don't realize it's inside of them. So they're still kind of looking outside for that divinity and not inside for that divinity. But when you used to play those roles, well, let's put it like that, when you were playing in those realities, there was a forgiveness aspect there, right? There was a forgiveness aspect when you looked at the form of which it took, whatever it was, whether it's Jesus or Buddha, it doesn't matter. You feel like it was forgiving. right? That no matter what you did, it would always be okay. You know, they were always going to be there to say, hey, that's okay. You kind of screwed that up, but don't worry, it's going to be okay. There's no judgment energy there. And that's why when we get into our higher aspects, judgment is one of the last things that's going to go for us as far as being able to clear it. And that could take forever. We're kind of always clearing judgment because we hold so much of it in our body. But that is not a frequency that your higher aspect will come from in its purest states. It's not going to come from judgment. So we really have to kind of feel into what that is. Feel into Christ energy. Ask to activate that within yourself. Ask to activate, and don't get so bogged down on the religious stories about it, right? When you talk about Christ energy, when you talk about God particle, when you start talking about those energies, a lot of people will kind of feel like it's kind of got a religious tone. And it does because of the stories around it or the worshiping of the forms that came in the past. Right, but we all hold that. We all have the capacity to hold that. We just have to activate that. And then once we activate that consciousness, be able to hold that and come from that place every time. And sometimes we have to take baby steps to do that, because some people you'll be talking to and you'll have a hard time holding that higher aspect of yourself. You might not want to be there, even though they really want to talk to you about something, or they really kind of require a shoulder in a sense, and you just don't want to be there for that. You know, we've all kind of felt that, where no matter what the reality and what had teed up that reality, where you don't really want to do that. You know, and you kind of said things like, I really don't want to do this, but you know, ascension stops being about you at certain parts of the process and starts being about everybody else, right? It's kind of like, you know, I had a teacher that would say, you know, it's, you don't get it your way. It's not Burger King. It's not about you anymore. Now it's about the other people in the reality, because you are not coming as your highest aspects. You are there. You are a mirror of their higher aspects. So you have to come with compassion. You have to be able to come with love, and not human love, pure love, divine love. You can't come with human anything, in a sense, and be acting from your higher aspect. That also means that everything that's happened before this to get to the point of this relationship doesn't exist. It technically it never happened, because in the moment you set in it now, none of that happened. It doesn't matter. And it really goes into that forgiveness energy. If it was something that needed to you know, to be forgiven in a sense, or that your human felt like it needed to be, can you forgive one time and that's it? Or do you have to keep getting yourself to forgive? You know, you have to keep doing it multiple times. You're not really doing it. So we have to really look at where we come. It's about us. It's not about the other person. It's about our energy, what we hold. It's not about anyone else. We will set the tone. We will be the ones that set the tone as to what that is. And what that's going to be for you when you really start to feel into those energies. And how would I expect, you know, if you're still really looking outside of you for that. And we all go through different phases of that, whether you're in any of the traditional religions or not, whether you were just in something else, if you were into spirituality. I mean, because ascension is not about spirituality anymore. It's about spirit and form. But a lot of us would go through that spirituality phase to kind of get to a spirit and form phase. Some people get stuck in the spirituality phase for like a long time. Some people never leave that phase. And they don't actually ever embody anything in. They're still kind of looking at it. Spirit guides is a good way to explain that. I mean, still looking outside for guides. I mean, they're just higher aspects of you. They're not, you know, anything else in a sense. But they still kind of keep it separate. And even in the spirituality phase, there's still a separation state there. But what would you expect from those aspects of you when you were in those phases? What would you expect if you were, you know, into, like, you can embody in different energies. The Mary Magdalene's an energy you can embody in. The Divine Mother is an energy you can embody in. And you will embody all these in at some point. What would you expect from that person? If that form was in front of you, how would you expect that person to come towards you? You know, how would you expect that person to relate to you? And that's what you have to really start to figure out, in a sense. And remember, because that's what we're going for. Can we hold that? Because you're going to be transmitting out something all the time. When you're in ascension and you're trying to, when you're in that part of the process, you're not transmitting out your crap. You know, humans transmit out, we would transmit out all our crap, and we didn't care. But we can't do that. We have to be transmitting out our purest our purest frequencies all the time, our most divine frequencies all the time. That's what living from your higher aspect is. So what would you expect that to be? And when you're starting to relate to a person, how would you relate to that person anymore? Because you can't go into the human stuff. So you find conversations like I did a video, God, I don't know, I do so many, I don't remember it, on small talk and how you really can't even be part of small talk anymore because there's no depth to it. And it's the smallest part of conversation you can have, and it's just so pointless. The conversation in general is pointless, but small talk is even the most pointless because really the whole point of small talk is trying to find a hook. You know, the other person trying to find a hook to kind of see what do we have in common, or well, how can I hook this person in to my reality in some way. You know, so it's kind of like they're fishing for information. There's manipulation energy to small talk. There's a very distorted part of that. You know, they really don't care about what's being said. It's just kind of to fill time, to get an angle, to get an edge. So, you know, you'll find it gets harder to communicate for a while, and you might feel very disconnected from people because you're really working on that, and you're really working on your connection inside. And your universe really doesn't want you to be worried about connecting with others at that point. One, you're not going to be able to connect with them the way you're going to want to be able to connect with them. The connections are going to feel empty because you're not in that place yet, perhaps, to connect with them. The other person doesn't want that type of connection. And it could scare people off in a sense, you know, and you don't even have to say anything. Sometimes your vibration, people don't want to be around that because they can feel the higher frequency of it, and they don't want to be around that because it's going to break loose a lot of their stuff. And that's not that frequency that they're going to have to clear. So unconsciously, they just don't want to be around you. And that's not personal. And we can't take any of that personal. You have to get over all the personal stuff and go, okay, that person, you know, they're doing a different part of their process in a sense. Even if they're still in their human realities, they're still always moving toward a higher consciousness. And they don't want to be around you for a reason. And that's okay. You know, kind of let them go in a sense. And when they're ready to be around you, they'll be back around. Yeah, I was doing a video earlier and I was trying to think of a catchphrase, and it was what goes around comes back around. And it usually does in one form or the other. The energy will come back around. I'll guarantee you that. We get attached to the form it came in the first time, but the energy will be back around. You don't need to be looking for that or worried you won't see that energy again. If you haven't cleared it yet, you'll see it again. And if you're wondering if it's going to come back around again, then you haven't cleared it. Because once you clear it, it's completely out of your frame of reference, and it's out of your field. Well, you won't even really have a thought of it unless you're going to have that thought to teach someone else, and then it will come back in for that. When you start relating with people again, when you start trying to connect, then you get to a part of the process where you want to connect with people because you've been by yourself for so long, you kind of want to go out and connect with people. It just doesn't, it gets a little trickier in a sense because the connections feel so empty because you're so deep within yourself that the connection that might be being offered, because remember, they can only connect with you as deep as they're in within themselves. So that's kind of where you can get the disconnect we talked about earlier. Don't worry so much about the connection with you feeling with them. Concentrate a little bit more on how you're trying to connect with them. And it's a very organic process. And it's kind of like a training ground for how you do that. You know, humans want to tell a story. So if you're dealing with people in a human consciousness, honor the feelings that the story brings for them, but don't honor the story. Honoring the story is what humans do. You know, we honor the story of, yeah, you're right. You did get screwed, 100%, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes you can say that, maybe just so they feel validated. Humans also want to feel validated, whatever's happening to them. They want to be the victim in the story. They want to feel validated in that, or they want to be the hero of the story. They want to be in that one way or the other, because the human sees everything's very black and white. You know, they're the hero or they're the victim. Or they're the criminal, whatever, you know. The protagonist, they're the antagonist in their own story. Sometimes they're usually both. Honor their feelings, because their feelings are real. Even if it's a reality that had to do with you, and you might not agree with the story they're telling, the way their human consciousness frames the story, but the story doesn't matter. Validate their feelings. That's the important part. It's not a don't validate the story. The story is going to shift and change as they shift and change. Get them off the story, but validate that they might feel sad, or they might feel angry, or they might feel jealous, or they might feel pissed, or they might feel sad. That's the connection. You have to really feel and care about how they feel. Do you really care about how they feel? Are you just there because you want to get something out of it, or because you felt like you're supposed to be there? You felt obligated to be there. Do we really care about the other person? Really care about them? To show up in our highest aspect all the time from that place. And if the reality does go askew, and repeatedly, if it's completely disrespectful, be able to align that. So from a loving place, you can be powerful from a soft place. The ego's perception is you can't be. And the human perception is you can't be. So there's also going to be realities that are going to test that for you. Can you come with power from a soft place? Or are you going to be walked over like a doormat repeatedly? Like sometimes we allow that for a while because we're still playing in that, we can be playing in that higher aspect and still working out the distortions of that aspect. As we talked about, like the Savior energy and the Christ energy, the distortion of that being the distortion of the Christ energy. Can we hold that all the time? Can we come from that place, but still love the person? You can say, I love you, but that's not okay. This is not okay. What you did was disrespectful. It's not okay. Doesn't mean you don't love them any less. It just means that's not okay. Now, if they continue to do it, and I had many relationships I had to end because after I had that conversation, it kept happening. And that's kind of your universe's way of showing you, and that person fulfilling a contract in a sense, to say, are you going to stand up for yourself? This reality will be done the minute you say no more and you walk away from it, because it's already past its useful life. You start to see the distortions in the relationships. You start to see where you're being taken advantage of in a sense. So be aware of everything you're seeing and feeling. Seeing from here, not from here, from here. Everything you're seeing and feeling when you're around certain people, and when you're working on seeing, can I align these relationships or can I not? Am I just supposed to be there for them as my higher aspect? And then maybe I'll see them a year from now and I'll show up for that for them again because that's my role. Or maybe it's not your role for that person. Maybe it's your role for someone else. Just because someone was there for us might not mean we have to be there for them. There might be something else coming in to be there for them. We might have to go be there for someone else. You'll always be paying it forward in a sense, and you always will show up for someone. It might not be exactly the same person. Humans kind of get bogged down on, they have all these cords that has to be that person. Oh, that person was there when I needed them, so I've got to be there when they need me. That might be the case, might not be. Sometimes it doesn't work that way. Sometimes that was their role to be there for you, and now they're going to go through a lot of other different things, and someone else might come in to be there for them when they need it because you're going to be doing something else and you won't be able to fulfill that role because there's something higher aligned that you need to be doing right now. It doesn't mean you love them any less. So be very perceptive of what's going on in relationships, and where, like, if you're feeling anything inside, that's your stuff. I hear a lot about that. Like, you see a lot of these YouTube things too that say that, like, oh, that was their stuff, not mine. If you're feeling it, it's yours. You're matching the frequency they're giving off. And you're doing that, and it's triggering either anger, sadness, especially if you're with a person that the history, which if you haven't completely, okay, that didn't happen, and be able to say, well, it didn't happen in this timeline, we're going to start new. We're not going to bring the past in. The minute we bring the past in, we're going to recreate the whole damn thing again, which we don't want to do. That's one thing that our human would do, would be keep recreating the same shit. One, we didn't want to deal with the shit, so that would be created. Or two, we want to keep bringing it back in. I used to, so many people will say, oh, remember the last time and all this stuff happened. Well, the minute you bring all that shit up, here we go again. Let's just start it again. So be very conscious of that. Be very conscious of yourself. And if you find yourself slipping in and out of consciousness in the reality, in the conversation, just note that. Note what took you out. What took me out? Why was I not able to hold it? When was I getting tired? You'll find it's a lot of strain on your field to be around people when you're trying to function at a certain frequency and they're not, or they're at a different frequency. So that's why we get tired when we're around a lot of people. So if you're trying to function from a certain place and there's a lot of people around, that's going to tire you out. Could you hold it until you started getting tired? Because eventually you'll work through that stuff, but that just comes with being aware of what can you do and how far can you hold. Okay. Keep practicing the art of intuition.